Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hi, welcome back, everybody. This is for any parent, or maybe you know a parent that has a child with special needs and potentially is struggling in school. It's a slippery slope when you're dealing with the school district because I'm going to be honest and say it's all about money within the school district. But getting your child the right type of help, the right type of education can be a challenge. You need somebody in your corner. I have found her. She is the IEP Parent Advocacy ARC. And we're going to talk about some trending stories involving students not getting what they should be getting and what can be done about that. Sherrell Scott joins us once again on the program. How you doing today?
Great. How are you doing today?
Real good. Real good. And it's funny, you mentioned this story that we're about to talk about, and I thought you were referring to a story I heard about a girl last year who graduated but couldn't read, couldn't write, and then I realized this is a story of a boy, and this is as of this past week with a similar situation. Tell us about it.
There is a situation where a high schooler in Tennessee is suing his school district after graduating with a 3.4 GPA, yet he couldn't read or write, and free public education failed him.
3.4. How is that even possible that he's got that GPA and apparently he can't read?
Well, from my standpoint of looking at the article, it was the fact that the school failed him because it was saying that no progress in his reading fluency throughout the middle and high school. His parents eventually had arranged for private tutoring, which helped him to make some progress, but still the school wasn't doing what they should have done regarding his dyslexia. And most schools states don't even recognize dyslexia as a disability. In the IEP, they have it written down as specific learning disability, but they're not really telling you which actually disability it is.
Right, and we don't know the full story with this Tennessee high school graduate. But what the bottom line here is he graduated with a 3.4, yet he couldn't even read. So I wonder, and again, we don't know the details, how it's even possible for him to even get to that point where he scores that 3.4. And we don't know the details, but we don't also know what his parents may have done on the back end to try and get improvements in his education. What do you know about that? Any other details?
The other part of the detail that I see, it says an administrative law judge held the due process hearing and found that the school had violated Williams' right to FAPE, and FAPE is free, appropriate for public education. Mm-hmm. And that's under the IDEA. And it says the ACJ ordered the school to provide 888 hours of dyslexia tutoring. So just like I had mentioned earlier, that they weren't giving him what he actually needed in order to thrive. And so right there in that finding, it was letting you know that they didn't do it. And then also it says the court affirmed the district court judgment holding that the school failed to provide an education tailored to Williams' unique needs as required by the IDEA.
And I just looked into this story a little deeper as we're talking, and now the parents are looking for compensation so they can get him the right type of education. And it was found that he used AI software to write the papers. So therefore, he didn't need to read. But above and beyond that, he should have been tested appropriately to determine that he couldn't read to get that. Still arriving at the 3.4 GPA. Wow. Where do you think the fail, and again, we only know what we know, but Sherrell, where do you think the fail was here in this situation?
I think the fail here was the fact that the parents were trying, I'm assuming once the IEP was done, the parents had turned in their findings of him having dyslexia. It had to be something on record that he had it. It's just the fact that they did not adhere to what they should have done. When you have a dyslexia, if you go to a private person, doctor, to get the determination your child has dyslexia, they come back with the findings. The findings are going to have dyslexia or either developmental dyslexia, whichever format they have it in, and they're going to tell you what is needed for the student in order to thrive.
So,
which program they would need, the school would need in order for their student to thrive with the dyslexia. But once it was turned in, I'm pretty sure the school came up with a lot of what I call excuses to say that will go into like the 5 red flag phases, where they'll say, well, you can't, okay, for example, they'll say, well, we can't afford that technology here. We don't use that technology here. They'll give an example of something else that they use, but they'll probably never get around to actually using it for their students.
Yes, and it's not to say that it was okay for him to use AI to
Absolutely.
generate his papers, but kids can do that. It's on the school, and maybe partly the parents, but the parents wouldn't even be aware because the student submitted it. It's on the school to detect what's going on there, especially if they know that he has challenges like dyslexia. Now, I'm not a teacher, but I would think if you get something submitted to you and it looks pretty darn good in terms of what was created coming from a student with challenges, wouldn't you question it? Wouldn't you wonder, how did he do that? He has dyslexia. We've identified some previous issues, but we have this shining report that he submitted. Obviously, it was done through AI.
I'm going to just say with that right there, it was a lot that was overlooked because they're going to say from middle school and high school, they weren't trying to fulfill his IEP or try to see, like, for when your report card comes up, progress report should have came out as well, indicating what areas he needed help in. And I'm assuming they weren't giving out anything that was telling the definitive truth of what was going on with him.
So in a situation where a parent comes to you and explains what's going on, let's say it's even in this, use it as an example. You have a student, he's got dyslexia. Obviously, he needs support from the school district. A lot of times, and this is based on my experience and those I'm close to, friends and family, there's always going to be pushback from the school district. You know what's best for your child. Then it's almost as if you have to leverage it and try to get them to provide certain, whatever kind of tutoring it is. How do you support students, let's say in a situation like this? I don't mean the lawsuit. I mean before the lawsuit. Let's say there's some pushback from the school. How would you support them? Do you advocate on behalf of the student and the parents?
Me personally, I would advocate on what the student needs to thrive. And so what I would do is I would get with the parent and have an IEP meeting. And after we have an IEP meeting, we're going to talk about everything in that IEP that the student needs, accommodations that he needs in order to thrive with the dyslexia. Upon finding out that they are reluctant to do it or refusing to do it, the next step I would do is, after I follow the procedure protocol, I will file a complaint with the state, indicating the disability that the student has and all the things that I've tried to do with the school in order to get the accommodations for the student to thrive. I would personally have to file a complaint against them for not doing what is needed for the said child. Because why are you trying to save money and this child is entitled to accommodations that are not going to be outrageous when it comes to price?
How challenging is it to file a complaint with the state?
It's not challenging at all to file a complaint. The only thing is, you have some parents that you can tell, well, let's file a complaint, and they get scared and nervous, thinking it's going to be retaliation, and sometimes it can be retaliation. But the best thing I would do, if you're retaliating against me for turning you in for not doing your job, once it comes back in my favor, you'll know then that you have to follow protocol and the correct protocol that you should have done in the first place, or it wouldn't even led up to me filing a complaint.
Gotcha. Wow. You know your stuff. I having been a little bit down the block on this one, when it comes to advocating for your kid, you run deep. How often does it vary from state to state?
Well, basically, you have to look up, like, which state actually acknowledge the word dyslexia. It's a lot of states that don't even acknowledge the word dyslexia, period. It's just like, well, we heard of it, we understand it, but most people, I'm going to be honest, don't care because it's not their child, it's not nobody that they're affiliated with child, and it's just a word that they would like to use to say, well, I understand it. Well, live a day in the parent life.
Yeah.
Stop acting like you understand something. If you've never lived a day in the life of a parent that has a dyslexic child, you'd have no idea how that feels, how the parent feels, how the child feels, and stop making excuses to not accommodate the child just because you want to save some money.
You know, what's troubling about this case in Tennessee is it seems like the school district did the right thing by offering the type of education that he needs. 888 hours, pretty considerable. 5 sessions a week, 1 hour per session of dyslexia tutoring. But he still came up with the 3.4. Great that he passed, but I don't even know how it was identified that he can't read at that point.
Because, to me, the services were given to him too late. After you were turned in for not doing the initial job you should have done in the first place. So this was given too late.
Okay. Wow. Any other cases you've seen, not like cases that have gone to court, or maybe you have, but situations where the school district gave pushback in terms of certain types of education, certain types of classes for students with challenges?
I've heard pushback where this was like last year, 2 people couldn't enroll their kids in school because of them having autism. And the school handbook said that the child had to be potty trained. These particular kids hadn't been potty trained. And since they weren't potty trained, they couldn't enroll them. And I said, well, federal law trumps state law, meaning you could enroll them in that school and put that potty training in IEP. But the parents were so scared, they didn't even enroll them.
Wow.
And so with me, if they would have hired me, I'm ready to go. You hire me, I'm ready to go to the school and let them know this is not the appropriate way to put something in the handbook to keep an autistic child out of school because you don't want them at the school because they're not potty trained.
See, the thing is, most parents don't even know what exists, what's available, and unless you're deeper into it, if you're just identifying your child has a challenge, many don't even know what IEP stands for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me how it works when somebody engages you. Let's say that they realize that their child is having challenges. Maybe there's been a recent diagnosis. Obviously, as a parent, you know that they have challenging grades as well. How does it start with you? I would imagine you have to go through a fact-finding mission to figure out where the student is at and what has transpired so far with the school.
Well, once we do our discovery call and the parent determines whether they want to work with me or not, then we'll go from there. The IEPs vary from 22 to 26 pages long. I would have to really look into the IEP, dissect it, and see where the problem lies. And once I see where the problem lies, I'll set up and devise a plan in order to have an IEP that's going to allow this student to thrive. And also, I'm going to help the parent have a voice, because sometimes parents go to these IEP meetings and they be dreading going, because once you get to the table, everybody around the table will pretty much start off saying something that, to me, negative at first. So you can always shift it and say, I want you to talk about the child's strengths first. The words they love to use are weakness, but I was telling them the words I only want you to use are strengths and struggles. You can always change it up. It's not every word, verbiage that they say, you can change it if you don't want to hear it.
I like the way that sounds and feels, strength and struggles. You really need to use strength as a parent even to get this done. And that's unfortunate. It's not like you send an email, you say your child has a challenge. It does go before a board. There's a process that gets involved. There's testing. There is meetings. It's not just it's not an easy process. That's where I'm going with that. And I'm sure you've seen that tons and times again.
Absolutely.
What are some of the other things that parents should be aware of when it comes to dealing with their schools?
What they should be aware of is like scare tactics, where once they go into like an IEP meeting, I've heard this myself. We don't do that here. And I'm like, well, show me in the policy where you don't do that at. If it's something you asking for this specific and you know it is not costing the school X amount of money, why are you sitting there saying we don't do that here? So that's a form of gaslighting to me.
And you know what? To that point, get it in writing. Everything needs to be documented. You always need, even if it's an email, you always need to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Because if it's something said verbally, it's just like it never happened.
Exactly.
If it's not written in black and white, that shows proof that it happened. But if I'm just verbally saying something, okay, I can say it never happened. That's hearsay.
It doesn't exist unless it's been documented.
Absolutely.
You know, and the sad part about it comes down to one thing: money. It's, I'm sure school districts would love to check off a box and say, yeah, little Jimmy, we're going to take care of him. We're going to support him. But they put you through this laborious process of testing, which I get to get a baseline, but review and meeting after meeting. And then if, the expectations by the parent are not being met, then there's other meetings and on and on. It comes down to one thing: money. They're just trying to save money. They're trying to be careful with it. And what I've seen in watching this with others, that you need to make sure that you're being treated, like you just said, doesn't exist, that your child is being treated fairly based on the other kids. What are they getting? Let's say homeschooling. How come these kids are getting home tutored over here? My son isn't. Let's say have the social anxiety issue, whatever it might be. If you're providing it for some students, you should be providing it for others.
Absolutely. But what they love to do is sit up and say, well, we have a certain criteria that you have to meet in order for you to do this, this, and this. And even if the parent has shown that they are meeting the criteria, it'll always be something else that they try to throw in there for the parent to say, okay, I've done all this and you still want more. It sometimes gets really exhausting to have to deal with. All you want is for your child to get a education that allows them to thrive with their disability. Mm-hmm. That's all you want. That's all you basically want.
Totally. And it's kind of a mind blow here in that sometimes we forget that we are paying the school district. We view it as, well, they're providing an education for my child. No, taxes are paying for that, and you're paying taxes, as is everybody else in the district. I love, Sherrell, what you provide, aside from the insight of what your child should be receiving with an IEP. You also go a little bit deeper, and this is just to fully illustrate how it's a challenge when you got to go into these meetings and literally fight for your kid. You do mock IEP meetings. It's almost like role playing, as if you, Sherrell, are the administrator and I'm the parent, and we go back and forth on it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. For example, I've taken you on as a client and you want to do that mock IEP, I'm going to make sure I prepare you for your IEP meeting. you're going to come in there, you're going to be kind of nervous. You don't know what to expect with the meeting if it's your initial meeting. But I'm going to throw everything at you I can throw at you and just see how you react. Every kind of way that you're sitting there saying, well, I want this for my child, blah, 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 I'm going to be against it. I'm going to be against everything that you say, everything that you come up to me with. I'm going to be against it because that's pretty much how a parent is treated. And then if they give you anything, it's not major. It's nothing major that they're giving you. And so I'm going to get them ready. And when they go in there, they can have the confidence of saying, hey, I can handle this meeting.
Mm-hmm. I love it. You know what it is? It's almost like going for a job interview.
Absolutely.
Where you worry about what they're going to throw at you. Like I've read recently that, let's say you're looking for a job in a restaurant, they will intentionally just leave a mop on the floor, horizontally, not even upright, and watch you to see if you pick it up and put it in its place.
I didn't know that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, right?
Wrong.
The other half of me would be, well, don't touch that. There might be a reason, crazy. Love what you offer, including the coaching mentorship. Tell us about that real quick.
With the mentorship, I'm basically getting parents ready to do what I do, but you got to really have the passion and the fire and the desire to make sure that the child is getting what they need, because they're going to come at you with opposition of not wanting to do it. And so my thing is, you need to come to the fact that, okay, tell me what's driving this no? Why are you so adamant about giving a parent a no? And I mean, it's easier for you to just work with the parent, but you choose to say, if they're asking for a service, it's a no. Just a flat out no. And so I would just like to know what's driving the no. And then can you show me, the next thing I would do, can you show me the policy which allows you to give me this no?
It's not like I have an advocate. I got a pit bull in Sherrell.
Absolutely. I'm relentless. I'm not going to stop until I get what the child needs. That's my main goal. I want the child to get what they are entitled to.
Thank you. Entitled to. There may be some things that aren't available or the school district doesn't provide. Understood. But at the same time, there is a high level of enhanced education that children are entitled to but aren't getting it. And for that, there's you. How do we find you?
I can be reached at www.iepparentadvocacyarc.com. My number is 1-877-809-0707.
Always great talking with you. I'm so glad that we got to dig into this case in Tennessee because it perfectly illustrates what's going on and why parents need somebody in their corner. And I appreciate that. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for your time.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.